Hello, guys, and welcome to the stream. So, today I want to be talking about a couple of different drills that we can use to improve your focus. I've mentioned in the title that this is for people struggling with ADHD. Reason I've put that in there is a lot of the work I do outside of my kind of circus training role when I'm working for at my other role as part of the company Rewire. We spend a lot of time helping people with ADHD improve either focus, initiating tasks, ignoring distractions, and things like that. So we've made it kind of specifically for anyone with ADHD. Focus is going to be something that we struggle with, and that can affect your training. Anyone else, if you're not diagnosed, if you just feel like your focus tends to suffer in general, these tips can be really, really useful as well. So, given the nature of focus being that people struggle to hold attention for very long, I want to just dive into this very, very quickly. So, what I'm going to be talking about are physical exercises. Usually, they work really well as part of a warm up. And end of your warm up, depending on what it is that you want to work on, you can throw in these exercises and see how they help you. So, first thing that we're going to talk about is breathing. Okay. And we're not going to be talking about like meditative breathing exercises or anything, but basically, if you want to be able to focus well, your brain needs a quite large amount of fuel available at any time to be able to focus. So, fuel for the brain is going to be in two forms. It's going to be glucose, so literally just sugar. That's the only type of fuel the brain can use for energy. So, if you're on a keto diet or something like that, it's extra steps involved. The brain has to turn the fat into glucose before it can use it as energy. But just pure sugar is literally what the brain uses as its fuel source, and no matter what you're eating, it's going to figure out a way to produce that. On the other side of things, though, in order for the glucose to be able to create the energy, you also need oxygen. Oxygen acts as like the chemical reaction. It causes the chemical reaction, makes a little explosion for all of the energy. So if you find that you struggle a lot with focus, it's very likely that you may have issues getting oxygen to the kind of frontal part of the brain that deals with focus. And even if that's not the case, having more oxygen available is going to make it much easier for your brain to figure out what it wants to do and what it has to do. So, a nice quick and easy breathing exercise that you can try is something called air hunger. And the idea is it's a breath hold. So, you're holding your breath until you absolutely need to breathe again. But instead of breathing all the way in and holding your breath, you're actually going to do it the opposite way around. You're going to breathe out, you're going to exhale as fully as you possibly can. And once you've breathed out all the way, once you think you've breathed out all the way, keep breathing out for another 5-10 seconds. Then, once you're absolutely at the very end, you're going to hold your breath and you're going to stay there for as long as you possibly can. Okay. This is probably going to feel pretty horrific the first couple of times that you do it. You may find that, it's difficult to get past even 4 or 5 seconds. That's totally normal, but we want to build this amount of time up, because what happens is when you need to breathe, then your kidneys are going to produce a little more red blood cells. That's going to allow more oxygen to go into the bloodstream, and therefore more oxygen to get up to the brain. The way that I'd recommend performing this is in rounds of 5. So you would breathe out all the way, you're going to hold your breath, and then hold for as long as you can. When you really need to breathe, you get 2 recovery breaths. So breathe in, breathe out normally, breathe in one more time, and then you're going to start again. You're going to breathe all the way out until you can't breathe out anymore. Hold your breath and stay like that for as long as you possibly can. That's going to repeat for a cycle of 5. And usually then you find, things are waking up. You usually feel like your eyes are opening up a little bit more because they're ready to take in some more light. That's a pretty good sign. then you're good to go. So you may find just that on its own is enough to give you that little extra edge on your focus to pay attention to what it is that you're doing in your training. The next 3/4 exercises are all going to be to do with your eyes. Okay, so when it comes to training focus, again, if your focus isn't great, but it's not ADHD. It's not, chronically bad or anything like that. For some people, you can just practice focusing harder. You can practice like, oh, if I just become more present in the moment and I pay a bit more attention to what I'm doing, I find that I can be a little bit more focused, and that's all just great. Um, if that's the case for you, then you probably don't need to go any further. For most people, especially anyone dealing with attention issues and focus issues, you'll probably find no matter how hard you try at focusing, it's just not enough. You can't just practice focusing on the task that you're doing to get better at focusing on the task, because there's loads of other things that get involved. There's the emotional system will start to get worked up if you're trying something and it's not working. There's all the other physical parts of your body. All of these things can provide a roadblock. So one of the easiest ways that we can get around that and still practice focusing without having to deal with all of the extra baggage that comes from trying to focus on a complicated task or even a what seems like an easy task, is to focus only on the eyes and what the eyes are doing. So we've got 3 exercises that are going to deal with each part that people generally find difficult about focus. Number 1 is they find it difficult not to be distracted by other things. So, you start a task, but then actually that reminds you that you could be starting 7 or 8 other tasks. Number 2, some people just can't start the task in the beginning. So, they know there's stuff that they need to do. It's very hard to get it initiated. And then the third thing is people can start things, but aren't able to finish them. They find that they have trouble actually um, to get something actually completed. Once something gets near the end, then their body just kind of relaxes and doesn't want to touch or go near that. So let's go from the first one. So avoiding distractions using your eyes. The drill that we're going to use for this is something called a eye isometric or a gaze fixation. You'll hear kind of both of those thrown around. I'm going to type them both in the chat just in case you want to look them up outside of this. So eye isometric or gaze fixation. This one's probably the easiest one to explain. It's literally like having a staring contest with something in front of you. Okay, so to do the exercise, you're going to stick your thumb arm's length in front of you, and then your eyes are just going to focus on the tip of your thumb. They're not allowed to look away. Your thumb's not allowed to move. And you're just going to stay like that for as long as you possibly can. Okay. So no blinking, no looking away, no muscle tension to help your eyes focus. You just want to stay nice and relaxed, eyes focused on the thumb. Sorry, I hope you cannot hear whatever that noise is in the distance. Got a slightly better microphone this time, so maybe it's not coming through. Anyway, sorry for rambling. Not good in a lecture called Focus. So, staring contest, staring at the tip of your thumb. I would recommend people work this up to about 30 seconds. So you can have a try at this while I'm talking. A lot of the time, we'll find if you find focus to be a real challenge, it's not uncommon for me to do this test and find people not even able to hit the 5-second mark before either they need to look away, before they need to blink like pretty heavily, or before they start getting some negative symptoms. So, it might be a little bit of dizziness or nausea or headache or something like that. All of those, by the way, would be signs that you want to stop. So as soon as you get any kind of negative symptom, just cut it out. That's you done for the day. But then I would pick it up again tomorrow and just see, can you push it for a little bit longer each time? So the gaze fixation, literally just staring contest with your thumb. And again, when you're training your eyes to focus on one thing without being distracted, you're engaging the frontal lobe of the brain, whose job it is to get involved in focus in a pretty powerful way. And it's a powerful way because your eyes take up a huge amount of energy. So that's the more energy that gets involved there, the easier it is to rewire it as like a permanent trait. But you're not getting mixed up in all the emotional baggage that comes with like the thing that you have to have due for a certain deadline, or the things that you know you're supposed to do and you just really don't want to do them. Like my tax return, I can think of as a good example of that. Second part of this is then initiating tasks. So many people find that, once they get going, it's fine, but getting started is the issue. And again, this is the frontal part of the brain that is involved with initiating movement and getting movement started. And the reason that you might find this really difficult is, again, down to energy. The frontal lobe of the brain uses a huge amount of energy. And if your life is not at risk, then when that part of the brain doesn't have enough energy, it just says, you know what, leave it out. I don't want to deal with this. We'll wait till you're actually in danger, like the deadline is approaching, and we'll get involved then. In a similar way to the ignoring distractions, we can use the eyes to kind of help with this. And one of the ways that we're going to do that is through an exercise called a saccade. And a saccade is basically where the eyes jump from one position to another position very, very quickly. So the way we're going to do this is you're going to hold thumbs out about shoulder width apart, and your eyes are just going to look left and right as quickly as they can. Or you can even do this with your head looking left and right as well. And you just want to see what is the fastest that you can do this for, again, about 30 seconds, where you're actually sure that your eyes are landing on the thumb on each side. Okay, so most of you can probably turn your head pretty damn fast or get your eyes to move pretty damn fast, but getting your eyes to initiate the movement, to move with exactly the right amount of force, to land in the exact right place, is often much, much harder. And this is the bit that we're going to be training in the frontal lobe of the brain. Is every time we have to do that jump, our brain has to figure out exactly how much force is required to get to the other side. And then it also has to work out how much deceleration is needed to stop and then jump back to the other side. So it becomes this pretty intense workout specifically to the part of the brain that is involved in initiating tasks. And when you're doing it over and over and over again for 30 seconds, that can be quite a workout specifically for the focus centers of the brain, again, without adding in all of the extra emotional baggage that gets involved with everyday tasks. Now, the other cool thing about the saccade is that you don't just have to do it in the horizontal position. So you can try vertical positions, diagonal positions. You can try with your thumbs moving around. These can all be useful in different ways. So you might find that you're really good at one and not so good at another one. Of particular note, the vertical eye saccades tend to be linked more with dopamine release. So dopamine kind of gets a bad rap these days, where we think that it's just a bad thing because we've got all this, too much dopamine because we're on our phones all the time. Well, it is impossible. It's physically impossible to initiate any movement without some amount of dopamine being released into the bloodstream. Dopamine eventually turns into adrenaline. So if we get too much of it, then that's when we can get stuck in fight or flight and anxiety. But we do need some of it to get started. So if you find that you're chronically unable to get going with tasks, it might actually be that when you're on your phone or whatever, you're using up all of your stores of dopamine, and now that it's super low, then you're finding it difficult to get involved with anything else. Sometimes these vertical eye jumps can be the best one to help you get started, just by forcing whatever dopamine can be found to get engaged. So trying different directions can be really helpful there. Now, finally, the third thing is being able to complete tasks, and this is going to be part of the brain that deals with seeing a thought, or just seeing a thought or an action through from the beginning to the end. And one of the things that's really important there is coordination. So usually what happens if your body is starting any kind of a movement, or if you start any kind of a thought process at the beginning, and if it's not a smooth, controlled movement, or it's not a smooth and controlled thought. So, for example, I'm trying to reach my arm up over my head. Ideally, I should be going like this. If actually things are shaking all the time, well, that's going to tire out much, much quicker. Same thing if I think about what I need to get when I'm going to the supermarket for groceries later. Well, that's going to be a problem we will not finish. Now, I am not sure if you can still see me. Let's see where we at. Sorry, webcam problems there. Okay, cool. I think we are good. Although I'm not getting much from my microphone. Okay, if you can't hear me, let me know. What are we talking about? So, thought processes need to be smooth and movements need to be smooth. The part of the brain responsible for that is called the cerebellum, and its main job is smooth and coordinated movement. We're going to try and train that with our eyes once again, and the way that we're going to do this is through an exercise I call a pencil push-up. The idea, we're going to take your thumb again. Traditionally was done with like a pen or a pencil, hence the name, but you're just going to bring your thumb slowly towards the bridge of your nose and all the way back. So again, fairly simple. There's a couple of rules for it, okay? So as you start to bring your thumb in towards the bridge of your nose, a couple things might happen. Number one, your thumb might go blurry. That's totally fine. You can leave that out. There's a certain distance where your eyes are just going to see things blurry as they get closer to your face. What's less okay, though, is you might be bringing your thumb in and suddenly it starts to split. It might just split, and suddenly now you've got two thumbs, one on each side, and they might be kind of ghost-like or something like that. Or that you might find that just there's a certain spot where your thumb's coming in and then suddenly it splits and comes back, and then it splits and comes back, or something like that. That is a sign of poor coordination. That means your eyes are tracking your thumb as they come in. Your eyes are moving closer and closer together, and then suddenly one of them just isn't able to hold on. So it's starting to jump, or maybe it's starting to kind of tremble and shake. And then what you're going to see is that your vision becomes really, really weird. It starts to double up. So this exercise is a really nice way to just train that coordination and for you to test how quickly can you get your thumb towards your face and away from your face without any splitting in the vision, okay? And also without any other negative effects. So if you can do it really, really well, but you're getting a massive headache, or you're finding that you're super nauseous or dizzy, just like we said at the start, this is a good sign to stop this, okay? So anytime we're getting those symptoms, we don't want to be pushing through. But that exercise on its own is often a really good way. I would train up to 5 reps in one day, and you find that actually can really help with your body's ability to coordinate itself better, which can have a big impact physically. So when we're talking about Circus, this can actually reduce injury risk, and it can also make it feel a bit nicer to be moving on our equipment, but also can help with smoothness of thought. So you might find that you burn out less quickly in your training sessions. You might find that you can actually start your conditioning training and get it finished, instead of getting nearly finished and going, yeah, that was good enough, and leaving it there. So those are the 3 strictly vision exercises that we can use. Got 2 exercises left to finish off. The next one, kind of vision, also kind of related to the balance system. So when it comes to focus, we've talked about it being energy hungry. It uses a lot of energy to be able to focus. Um, there's another system that uses an awful lot of energy as well, and that is called your vestibular system. Your vestibular system is the little canals that live on your inner ear, and they're almost work like spirit levels. They tell you when you are the right way up, or when you're moving or falling or twisting or spinning or speeding up or slowing down. And the job of the vestibular system is basically to keep you from falling over. So it does lots of really cool things. It gives you nice posture if it's working really well. If it's not working so well, your posture won't be so good. That's something, if you're curious about, I'll make another video on. And I'm also happy to chat if anyone's got any posture questions. I'll tell you at the end how you can get in contact. But it does a whole lot of stuff that's basically just designed not to let your head hit the ground, because once your head hits the ground, that's when it's pretty much game over. You know, things start to get really damaged and the brain doesn't work as well. The problem with that, though, is our vestibular systems in the world that we live in tend to get nowhere near the amount of stimulation that we crave. And this can be as true for circus performers and circus enthusiasts as it is for office workers. So you might think, actually, my balance systems are great because I'm always moving around. Um, it's definitely an advantage, but it doesn't always guarantee it. There's tons of things that can affect your vestibular system that can mean over time it doesn't work quite so well. Things like illness, lack of use, obviously. Anytime you've got hit in the head, whether or not you've got a concussion or something like that, anything that causes injury or damage to the neck, obviously, because that's affecting how your head moves. Certain uh, things nutritionally. So, drugs and alcohol can affect tons of, and also just the type of training that you do as well. So, you might find that even though you spend a lot of time spinning, so you think that might be good for your vestibular system, you might have also started ignoring signs that the vestibular system is maybe panicking and freaking out. So there's loads of reasons why the vestibular system could be not functioning at its absolute best. And while being physical is a pretty good safeguard against it, it's not a guarantee that you're not going to be dealing with some of these problems. When the vestibular system is not working so well, then it becomes more concerned that it might just suddenly fall over and not notice, and you're going to crack your head, and that's going to be really bad. So what it does is it then demands more and more energy away from the kind of volitional systems, the systems that we consciously control, like your ability to pay attention and like your ability to focus on things, and more energy goes to the kind of keep you safe, keep you upright, keep you alive. So the vestibular system can be a really, really powerful tool in training to help improve your focus, specifically because when it's not working well, it basically just saps up all the other energy in the room. This is especially prevalent with anyone I've worked with ADHD. Almost, like, I would say at least over 90% of the time, we found that some kind of vestibular training can help. So I'm going to show you one exercise. Again, this is something we'll probably do a whole video on. And if you check out my other YouTube channel, Rewire Neuro Performance Therapy, I'll stick that in the chat as well. We have a lot of videos around the vestibular system as well. And if you can't find them, you can message me. But sticking with the kind of vision angle, one of the things your vestibular system has to work really hard to coordinate is how to keep your eyes steady while your head is moving. A little bit like, one of those steady cams, so that when you're running with a video camera, it doesn't look like a Michael Bay film. So what we can do to train it looking at the thumb one more time, arm's length away, and you're literally just going to see what is the fastest you can shake your head left and right, where your thumb again stays clear. This time it doesn't want to go blurry, and it doesn't split into two, and the whole world just doesn't start to become nauseating and horrible. Um, and you can do this you left and right. You can do it up and down, circles, write your name with your nose, whatever you like. You can also do it increasing the balance challenge. So instead of sitting down, try it standing up, try it on one leg, try it on a tight wire, whatever it is that you're training for. The more difficult it is to stay upright, the harder the vestibular system is going to be challenged. The harder you challenge your vestibular system, the more capably it's going to be able to function in the future. And the more capably it's able to function, the less energy it's going to sap from things like the frontal lobe of the brain, which deals with your, attention on certain tasks, ignoring distractions, initiating movement, all the things we said that we wanted to improve here. We've got one more, and I forgot what it was. Oh, yeah. Okay. So, final thing that I want to leave you with. So, a lot of these exercises that we used, apart from the breathing one right at the very start, and feel free, by the way, if anyone has any questions, just drop them in the chat, and I'll answer them right at the end. A lot of them have been dealing with the eyes because, as I said, the eyes can have a really powerful influence on specific regions of the brain, especially the frontal lobe. However, since I said that the vestibular and balance systems sometimes don't like or aren't quite so happy when we're dealing with focus problems, you might find that every single one of those exercises just leaves you dizzy, nauseous. It's really hard to get more than a second or two without negative symptoms. In that case, there's another way that you can stimulate areas kind of nearby and surrounding, and that is going to be with strength isometrics. Okay, so when we said the eyes doing the gaze fixation, that is focusing your eyes on one thing and ignoring everything else, well, so is a squat with loads and loads of weight. You have to focus on staying in that squat while the muscles all are burning around you trying to hold that one specific position. That is a similar type of ignoring distraction and a similar type of focus on a task. When we said that the cerebellum in the brain that deals with coordination is really good for being able to complete tasks, well, the muscles in an isometric strength hold are also doing a similar thing. So one muscle is fighting the other muscle, and they're basically trying to make sure that one doesn't contract too much, the other doesn't relax too much, so that you can hold and maintain any position. So any kind of strength isometric, if you generally struggle with focus, these are going to be your best friend. And it's at the end of the talk, so it's not just for people who couldn't do the vision exercises, given as circus enthusiasts, performers, whatever. We tend to be pretty physical. We tend to do a lot of physical type of training. If you're the kind of person who really struggles with being able to focus, you're probably going to find the isometric stuff is worth increasing in your training plan. Okay, so you might really like dynamic moves and moves that swing and beat and all of that, but it could be a good idea to, can you work on handstands, can you work on just static squats and strength holds, anything that forces you to be under a huge amount of strain and staying really, really still. If you want a bonus from that, you can also practice, what happens to a powerlifter when they finish lifting their weight and they just throw it and drop it, and all the muscles just relax really, really quickly. Well, the better you get at relaxing quickly, the stronger the effect is you're going to have for staying out of that kind of fight or flight mode. So one of the dangers of focusing too hard is that adrenaline pumps up and then you end up in kind of fight or flight and danger zone. Well, this is one way that you can potentially avoid that, is to practice the isometric strength holds and then practice relaxing as quickly and as fully as you possibly can as soon as the demands have left your body. So that can look like anything. Nice easy one if you're sitting here is literally tense up your fists as hard as you possibly can. Keep the rest of your body as relaxed and loose as possible while squeezing your fists. But as circus artists, I imagine we can think of plenty of other examples of things where you can practice literally just being strong. So that's it. That's 6 different things that we can do for focus. We're bang on 30 minutes, which is what I try to keep this to. Thank you very much for your time. If you're interested in doing more of this kind of vision and focus training, I would recommend very much. Annoyingly, I didn't bring it with me today. We have a neuroband tool, which I'll leave a link to in the description for this. It's a really great way to train all aspects of vision and balance, and we pretty much prescribe it when we are dealing with ADHD specifically. So if you're interested in that, I'll get the link, and in the recording of this, I'll stick the link below. If you do have any questions about this, I'm going to be signing off for now, but you can find me on Instagram as Circus Trainer. It's the same name as the YouTube channel. You can fire me a message there. Usually I can get back within 24 hours. Any questions? I also offer free consultations. So, about 30 minutes long. If you got any specific issue you would like to discuss, my specialty is the brain and nervous system in movement, specifically for circus and acrobatics. So if there's anything you think I might be able to help with, I'll offer a consultation for free that we can talk through what you can be doing before you have to maybe go see a specialist and spend your money. And if you are in the mood to be spending your money, I can talk through what it would look like to work with me as well. So thank you very much for that. We'll hopefully be back within a week with another session, so I will see you then.